maybe. Waiting. Come on. Come on, TVs. Wow. Of course. Isn't that how it works? We'll get started eventually. I guess it'll take longer than I thought. Hey, there they come. All right, let's see if we can go back to here now. They just have to wake up. They're all full of snow. There we go. Woohoo!
Can I just say something real quick?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I snapped. Okay, I'm under a lot of stress right now in my personal life. So sorry if I snapped. It's not like you usually pretty chill. I usually could care less. I usually, for military, I'm just a lot of stuff going on, and I usually just drive on as it's in. So I'm sorry.
Okay. At some point, we want to make sure that you have in our folder Pro Tools 2. I think we're all pretty good at copying that over, so I'll let you do that as you, before the day's over. Make sure that that's in there before the class is over. I wanted to point out that on the syllabus, there is a little bit of reading in here. Make sure you're keeping up on that. There's another one next week, so there's not a ton in this class, but there is some reading, so make sure you're keeping up on that. These are the things we're going to look at today. So I'm going to talk about what is DeWolf music. We're going to look at what's called ducking and how to zoom around in Pro Tools. Because of our week 4 canceled class, we're not going to be doing Pro Tools 3, so we're going to kind of do that together. And then we're going to have our first real piece of content that we're going to create today, or that you're going to start working on, that'll be due next week. And I'm going to show you how, through a little lecture, how you can get through the booths, how recording in the booths work, because now that you're going to start real content, we're not going to any longer record here at our computers. We're going to be in those booths. So that's kind of what we're going to look at. I did want to meet with, you may have started this in other classes, some of you, we do what's called faculty mentoring. And you may or may not have yet met with one of the DMT instructors. I have some of you on my list, but I think the only one that's here today is Brittany. So we'll meet later on. I also have Kirchu, so you're going to be on my list too. So we'll meet later. All right, so first let me show you in class materials. We'll make this look like what you guys see, not my version. You'll see what has popped up here, DeWolf production music. In all of our real projects, we use music beds that come from this company called DeWolf. They create real production music for content that's available for you to use. Now, there's a couple things I want to point out is that there's a login and password here. It's important that you use that login and password. You don't have to request from them a login. I get notifications from them every once in a while where a student has said, hey, how do I log in? We have already paid, so this is our login for all of our stuff here at NWTC. So those are available to you. Here's the link to DeWolf. As you watch this banner move around, you'll see that DeWolf is a pretty big deal. And this is how real media production is done. You don't just grab any old tune off the internet. That's illegal. You use tunes if you're not doing something for commercial, for money. There are some options where there are people on the internet that will allow you to use some of their content, some of their music beds for free, royalty free. But as soon as you start to make money, or if you charge a client for that content, if you're working for an employer like a TV station or something, the music has to be paid for. It's not something that you can just take. We kind of think that in this world of everything's available for me for free, but it's not. And you can get in a really big load of trouble. So what we've done is we've made a license agreement with DeWolf, one of the major music production houses in the world, really. They're located in England. They do things like a lot of the Netflix productions. They do HBO stuff. You'll see stuff flash up here. They did the Olympics. They did, what else? They've done some like Ken Burns documentary stuff. They're pretty big. And what this gets you to when you go to log in, so I'm just going to do that here. I'm going to pop in that password that's on the page, and to 2018 SPR, all capital, is our login. That changes every semester. So every semester you'll see in your Blackboard shells that password to DeWolf has changed. You'll see you can search. So say if I wanted to search for, pop. I don't know what's going to come up. But here's all the tunes that will apply to the search that I just did. I can play those tunes here. I'm not sure if this is going to play through my system with my recording going on. It's going to play through my monitor here. It allows me to play them, and then what you'll see over here to the right of that track is a download button. And I can click that. It gives me this little pop-up, and it says, here's the name of the tune. How would you like to download this tune? Now, we know from our lectures that the first 3 are MP3s, and those are what kind of format? Lossy. So when we're working in Pro Tools, it always asks us when we start a session, how do you want recordings and audio to be dealt with in Pro Tools? And it always gives us 2 options, WAV and AIFF. So those are our lossless formats. B-WAV is their abbreviation for broadcast wave format. So in the lectures I said BWF, and in Pro Tools you'll see BWF, and I think WAV in parentheses. That's the WAV file. So either one of those is okay. Broadcast wave is more standard in the industry across all different kinds of PCs, Macs and PCs. So that's generally what we choose. We don't want to choose something that's lossy. We want to choose a good format. I can download that then to my local computer, and it'll end up in my, I can tell it where to put it, but if I don't determine where I want it to go, it will end up in the downloads folder on my computer. And then we'll import those into Pro Tools. And that's what we're going to do today, but I want to give you a little warning that this license that we have with DeWolf allows you guys to use this content for anything related to school. So if you do the station imaging is stuff we're going to put on the radio station, that's part of our school. They're okay. The license includes us broadcasting over our radio station or live streaming for video when we do that. It allows you to use it in content that you're going to create and put in your portfolio because they realize that is an important thing for you to have as well. What it does not allow you to do is to use this outside of school. And all of these tunes, like in the real world, all these tunes are watermarked digitally. They will know. I get emails within 30 seconds of people posting stuff online, and they go, X student just posted, or this account just posted it. It comes from this location because they can figure out where you uploaded it from and where you live, in what city. They will say, we know it's from you guys because it's Green Bay, Wisconsin, and it was uploaded from NWTC or this location. Is this something that's available for student use? We just want to double check with you. 9 times out of 10 it is, and I say, yep, that's for their portfolio, they're doing this, yep, it's not anything bad. But know that these guys don't fool around. In the real world, this is how it works. They do HBO, they do Netflix, they do big stuff. If you take their tunes and you make money from them outside of here, they will come after you. You are liable, the school is not. They will charge you lots and lots of money. So we do not have a license to do stuff outside of school. That's how you want to think about this process when you go to work. When I go to, if I work for a radio network and I'm hired by that radio network, what I used to do before I came here, and they say, hey, we need to have all these advertisements done. Can you do that? Put some music beds underneath them. And I just go out and take pop tunes and put them underneath all of my stuff, or I just go to YouTube and I capture stuff and throw it underneath my advertising, my imaging. I'm the one that's liable. Whenever you go to HR when you get a job, you're going to sign a little piece of paper and you're not going to read it. Buried in that agreement that you sign is that if there's any legal liability that you cause for that company, the company's going to, 1, fire you, and 2, you are going to be liable for all those charges. You will also be liable for the people suing you to pay for their lawyers. It's this really weird system we have in the US where not only did you do bad and they get to sue you, but then you got to pay everybody's bills. So realize that this is how it works in the real world. That idea of content is free. As creators, we have to get away from that because it can hurt you financially and ruin your career. So I give 2 examples. One of the graphics teachers, Christy, always talks about, she took an image quickly, stupidly, she admits, in a mock-up for a website. She was doing graphic design for a company and put it as a mock-up for a website to say, this is an idea of what I want you to do, and sent it off to the web designer. The web designer stupidly said, it looks pretty good, let's just leave that in there. Sent it off to the client, put it out on the web. The original content holder of that image said, that's my image, you guys didn't pay for that, you can't just use that for your business. You either can send me X amount of dollars or you can take your website down immediately. That went to the web designer. Web designer said, I didn't do that, that was Christy. Went back to Christy. Christy said, well, I told you not to use that, but yes, I did do that. Christy had to pay. So she's like, the employer didn't take care of it, the web guy didn't take care of it, it came all the way back to her, and it was her responsibility. It was thousands of dollars. She paid it out because she realized, this can ruin my relationship with all these people that I'm going to work with. I'm just going to pay it and move on and never do this again. In music, I give the example of there's a local, or was, a local church that said, you wouldn't think a church would have a problem doing this. They recorded their mass, and they had a nice speaker, did a nice sermon or something like that. And they said, you know what, we want to create a DVD and sell that to all the members of the church to do some fundraising. You know, no one's going to have a problem with that. It's just in our little local community. Well, they sold a lot of them and made a lot of money off of it, which was good for the church. But somehow the record company of the pop tune they put underneath one part of the service found out that they had done that. And they said, we don't want to be the big bad guy record company. You're a church and you do good things, and you know, we don't want to do that. But we do want to do one thing. We want to own your parking lot. And they're like, why would you want to own our parking lot? They figured they want to do like, you know, our XX church parking lot is sponsored by Capitol Records. They were like, that might be a good advertisement. They want to kind of help out our church. Sure. Didn't have to pay any money, signed over the rights to their parking lot. So what did the record company do? They made it so nobody could park in the parking lot. They took over the parking lot and said, now no one can park here. So the church couldn't have anybody come to services. So the church went out of business.
Oh my gosh.
So they are ruthless.
That's like manipulative.
But it is their right. It is their content. It was used illegally, and tens of thousands of dollars was made. All they had to do was do it legally, contact them first, find out what that charge is to use that tune, which in some cases could have been way more than what they were going to make from the sale. And there's avenues like this where you can go and say, you know what, I'm going to buy a $50 tune, or I'm going to buy a $100 tune, and it's not going to be that great tune by pop artist so-and-so, but it's going to be good enough for my production. So that's what you have to start thinking about, is that, you know, it's real when we start to create media that's going out, and it's not just for fun, putting it on Facebook between our friends. Now we're making money. Now it's our job. Now we're real content creators, and it doesn't work like that in the real world.
I've often wondered too, like I've been at church services and different programs, and like they'll like have an announcement, and then they'll have music playing in the background of different artists, like even in Christian contemporary world, and the Christian contemporary is taken off in the last 20
Oh,
years.
yeah, it's huge.
And I mean, like, I know like at a big Lutheran church that has, it's a mega church in Minneapolis, they have like 12,000 members, and they have like 6 services. And I have a friend that works digital media, my brother-in-law, and they use music and stuff. And he said that they can no longer do it, like when they do their announcements, because like they had one artist that came to their church just to have the artist come to their church for $80,000 without selling tickets.
Yeah.
You know, they no longer ask for donations when they have an artist at church.
And we tend to come from the idea of that it shouldn't be that big of a deal. I mean, it's just this
it's
music.
church.
Well, and it's different when you start creating. You're young, you're just starting in the industry. As you do more, 10 years, 15 years down the road, you're creating stuff. How are you going to feel if you create this beautiful film, this beautiful piece of music, and people just go, hey, let's just trade it and give it to everybody. And you're like, but that's how I make my living. It's different once you start to become that content creator. So your views will change. And I'm not saying that like it doesn't happen. It's up to the person that owns that content to come after you. So it isn't going to happen all the time, but I'm sure you probably have circumstances where you put something up on YouTube and you get a notice saying, this cannot be on YouTube. And then other times you put stuff on YouTube and you're like, Why didn't they send me a notice then? Because that copyright holder maybe said, it's not that big of a deal. Some people see it as promotion, and if you're not making money, they're like, no big deal. Others are really strict, and they're like, stop it immediately, YouTube take that down, Facebook take that down.
Oh,
So and they have the right to do that.
I have a question.
Sure.
I heard, like, because in rap, like, it's kind of a popular thing to recycle a beat that...
To steal a beat,
Right,
actually.
Yeah, like to still...
Sounds nice when you say recycle, but
Yeah, I mean,
It's sample.
It is a nicer term. But I heard, someone told me, now this isn't necessarily true according to what you said, but they said as long as you're not selling the song, you can use it.
well, yes and no. So I don't want to get into a huge thing about the legality, because you'll hear about this in other classes, internet broadcasting, we talk a lot about that. But there are some things like that. So say I'm at a live, like a DJ at a live club.
Yes.
I'm at a club, I'm taking other people's music and I'm mixing that together, maybe someone's rapping over top of it. That's live. That's an instance where you're right. Where now I'm not selling anything. Yeah, you may have paid to get in the door, but the club is paying licensing to play music in their club, and that's covering all of that. So but now you say, I'm recording everything I do, and that mix will be available on my website for $10, buy it after the show. That file now is not legal. So it's an odd line. And for we have a sampling class, we have a music production certificate, we have a sampling class, and we talk about this. Almost every pop tune has samples in it. It's not that it's illegal to sample, it's illegal to not get the clearance to use the sample. So there's plenty of examples where people did not pay the owner of that content, and then they got sued and they lost all kinds of money. But there's way more examples of the artist going, no, I'm going to clear all that and pay all those fees before I sell this record, and it's all legal as long as you pay. But if you notice, it's really only the top pop stars that can do it because they have the money to pay for those samples. And there's no time limits. It's like you could get in trouble for, they say, 1/100,000th of a second. So it's literally, there's no some people say, well, as long as I don't do more than 30 seconds. That's not true. There's none of those rules. Any little slice of anything really has to be cleared. That's the laws, right or wrong. That's the laws. And it's just best for us to start thinking about that because we're the content creators. And our companies are not going to back us. They're going to draw that line the minute you're hired. You do something illegal, it's just like you do something illegal at, you work at Walmart and you steal stuff off the shelves. They're going to fire you. They're probably going to ask you to pay that. They might sue you if it's a ton of money and have you pay that money back. It's the exact same thing. They're not liable. You're the one doing the illegal activity. So
Here's a question about like what you do, as your side thing with your podcast with jazz. So you're playing music and doing selections, and then your packages go out to wherever. I mean, how does that work with like the music choices and things?
Well,
do you have permission?
Well, that's a good question because that's why I don't podcast my show. My show's not available
not a
for
podcast.
individuals to download because that's illegal.
Okay.
Because then I'd be distributing tunes to people without paying
so
for them.
It's a radio show.
It's a radio show. So my files go to other radio stations that pay licensing, and
Okay.
they only broadcast it over the air. That's the license that they have.
So podcasting radio shows, like if I had a podcast and I had music playing, that's illegal because I'm violating podcast.
Right, so I
laws.
I play steel drum, so I used to do a steel drum podcast, and every tune on there I had to clear with the copyright holder before I could play it.
That's just a lie.
It's a lot of hassle. So what I did was it's a small industry in steel drums around the world. So I went to some of the major steel drum record companies and I said, I'm doing this podcast, it promotes your stuff. And most of them said, here's our content. Yeah, do it. It's promotion for us. Some of the ones that maybe were associated with bigger record companies either never got back to me, so I can't use it, or just said to me, sure, it's $3,000 or $5,000. And I was just like, okay, I won't play your tunes because there's no way I could afford that. Yeah. But they have that legal right.
Well, yeah.
And usually the artist is like, yeah, of course I want you to play my stuff because it's promotion. But the record company would be like, nope. And the record company owns it. And the artist would be like, sorry, there's nothing I can do because I signed that piece of paper and they own all my content now. So just keep that in mind. I don't want to get too crazy with stuff. DeWolf is there for you to use. We want to use it so much that in most of our classes we won't accept content without DeWolf. If you use something else, you'll probably hear from us and be like, why did you not use DeWolf? Unless you created it yourself, we really want you to use DeWolf.
I thought of a little example, like with using the rights to music, that was for film. When I was watching the commentary for a film, they wanted to get the rights. They wanted to get the rights to use like a Kanye West song in their movie, and it's like they went to them. It's like, oh yeah, I'll be like $10,000, $100,000 to use their song in your movie.
Yeah, he's not just going to give it to you.
Yeah.
That's
Not Kanye.
Right, not Kanye.
No.
If you were somebody smaller, up and coming, you might be like, what a great opportunity. Yes, please. And put my name in there and put it on the, But yeah, someone that big, he knows. And it's funny because he samples a ton, but he's clearing those samples. So he knows the law and he's paying the way he should. And, that's his right to say, no, you can't use my stuff. If you want to use my stuff, you got to pay me. It's his content.
So like when I'm working on my portfolio at home, and I'm using that stuff, I'm okay.
Yeah, you're okay because it's related to work here at school.
Okay.
So you're fine. But if you said, I really like that tune, I'm going to do a video for a friend that has a construction company, can't do that. Because it's not, that's a business now. And that's not our license with them.
Okay.
So they'd be happy to have you contact them and go, I'd like to use this piece of music, how much? I mean, that's legal, but it's going to cost you. They're not cheap.
When I leave this school, say in 2 years, and plan is to be out here in 2 years. Right?
Good.
Okay. So if I leave the school in 2 years and I want to keep the DeWolf music and use them, do they have a subscriber service? And
They do. You.
is it like
They would be happy to talk with you. You just click on that contact button and that'll show you. I mean, I don't mind saying our deal for the school, they made us a really good deal because they are hoping that you as young content creators, when you go start your business or go to other businesses, you'll go, well, we use DeWolf. Why don't we just sign up for DeWolf?
Right.
And they're hoping that it generates sales.
Right.
Maybe, maybe not. Our deal with them is a couple of $1,000s a year. So that's really cheap. But I saw them at a conference, a radio conference, and they were trying to make these deals with colleges. And they're like, look, we already have the system for HBO and Netflix. We want to reach new businesses that 10 years down the road might yield us more money. So they're like, we'll make it cheap. But you still pay. I mean, that's a great deal for us as a school. But it would be more, I would assume. If you did it on your own as a business, I think it'd be more than that. Notice that we don't have access to sound effects here. We're just production music. So if you go in there, you won't have access to any of those sounds.
Right.
I don't think it even gives you, there's a problem with this. You won't be able to get to those. So it's just good to know that this is how it's done. You'll find some great stuff. I don't know how often you'll recognize. I know of a lot of the people in the ambient world is kind of where I'm at. So I know a lot of the people that create ambient stuff, and they're creating for DeWolf. So you might recognize some names, you might not. There's opportunities if you create music to submit music to DeWolf as a composer too. So if you want to do that, there's ways to do that. Maybe you can get on their roster as one of the people that creates music for them. Then you get paid. So, all right. So what I want you to do is I want you to log in to DeWolf. I want you to download 3 or 4 tunes to your desktop. Then I want you to start a Pro Tools session. And we're going to import those 3 or 4 tunes to a track. So you should be able to do all that. When you name your Pro Tools project, you can name it Pro Tools DeWolf. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll wait and we'll see if everybody can get there. So I'm just going to download 3 myself. Remember, if you download them, the default will be your downloads folder. So we'll take that one, and I'm going to just take all of them from the same place, because while you're doing that, I'll just keep chatting. Students have asked in the past, can I download like a ton of these and then put them on my phone and listen to them? Yeah, that's not a problem at all. That'll give you an idea of what's out there. You just can't distribute them. As soon as you give them to somebody else and they post them somewhere, it's gonna, like I say, these are watermarked. It'll say NWTC license. They'll know it came from here. You can't fool them. You can't strip that content. It's an audio watermark. Okay, I'm gonna do Pro Tools.
So just look for 3 different tracks and
Yep.
import them.
Yep. And then we're gonna download them, and then we're gonna import them into, because I want to show you what's called ducking and automation lanes. So we're gonna open up a Pro Tools session and go through that. And I'm gonna name mine with our naming structure underscore DeWolf. And then I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna save it to my H drive, which is not mounted. It was before.
Doesn't matter how long it is, really.
No, they'll all be kind of that 2 to 5 minute range. Most of their stuff. There are some longer ones in there.
So I'm just gonna random click one, but how did you?
Download is that down arrow. So you'll see a down. You have to be logged in though.
Oh,
You won't be able to download unless you're logged in. Tuesday. Let's put that right in there. There's my session. And I'm going to import. Let's see if you can get through all that without my doing that for you. Remember, when you import, copy, convert, never add. We did that last time. Always save it to the destination that it tells you, and then it's going to ask you clip, list, or track. Make sure you take them to a track. Okay, I am in there. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm going to leave track color on, and I'm going to change my view to not have comments. There we go. Okay, so for those watching the video, we're going to wait till everybody gets caught up on Pro Tools, because I'm recording this for those not here.
What did you want us to name it again?
So we just go
Just
to
DeWolf.
file.
Yep, save file. Yep. Yeah, otherwise it'll open in iTunes.
Okay.
Yep, see that, I always copy that, and then I just remember the password. It's easier to not have to type digital media at NWTCWD.
How do I download it?
So once you log in, you'll have a, yeah, so you're not logged in, you don't have that arrow, so you gotta go up and log in. Those login credentials are on Blackboard. It's not your computer login, it's our digital media login.
All right, so there's your out and we want,
Yep, and that B wave is broadcast wave. That's our normal Pro Tools file. Now I'm just gonna wait. I imported all 3 at the same time, but if you import them one at a time, obviously that'll take you a little longer. And then feel free to go to this website anytime from anywhere. You have the login. You can go from anywhere and check out their tunes. Make a list or something of tunes that you like, maybe for future projects. There's tens of thousands of tunes on here.
it's crazy.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's how it's done. All that incidental music in TV shows that's not like the composed music, that's comes from places like this. So if you think of a Netflix show that you watch, we were talking about Stranger Things in the other class. Some of that music is composed. That's probably an odd one, because probably most or all of that music is composed by the music composer for the show. But a lot of shows will have bits and pieces of music that they don't write. They just get from production houses, and they slap it in there. It's easier than paying somebody to compose all the music. So they used to have a Netflix show on here that they were talking about that they're just, come on, what's an AB? Mute. I don't know that show, but they do, that's their latest Netflix show that they do the music for. But they did the Summer Olympics. I don't think they did Winter Olympics, but they had all the incidental music for Summer Olympics. Oh, well, it says right here. Maybe they do. Well, that's Audi. Yep. DeWolf. So your name underscore DeWolf.
Oh, I was just looking at it.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Do you have the? Did you import?
Oh, this is a different project.
Oh, okay. But you have the other
Yeah,
one.
I have it saved.
Oh, okay, good.
We do convert, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Always convert or copy. Never add when you go to import.
I just call it DeWolf when it has to be created. I like the
No, that's fine. I mean, we're not going to turn this in, but remember our for all the rest of our assignments, you want to use your name on that.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Remember when you get to that import screen, it says audio destination or destination. I think it says audio destination. You always click open. We never change the destination. Pro Tools knows where we want to save that.
New track or clip list?
New tracks. Yeah, saving new tracks. So Steve, you got to put in your, remember our naming structure is your last name, lowercase first name with a uppercase initial, underscore, and we're calling this one DeWolf.
Is there a way to rename this session?
Not easily. It's fine. We're not going to turn these in. I'm not going to, I mean, you're not going to
Is
lose
this
points or anything if you didn't
session
name it.
3?
But I know that for this
Right.
next
You get it
session,
in.
yeah, next session, we're going to create a station imaging, and now from that point on, it has to be.
Okay, so then we go file.
Yep, underscore, and then realize that save as in Pro Tools does not work. So if you're going to save as, that's not going to help you.
Okay.
So that's why I say if you don't name it properly right away, then it's not.
Stereo
There's
mix,
some ways, but save as is not one of them.
interleave.
You can.
Sure, all this-
You can.
Okay, and location. that's just-
Yep, location should be H drive, remember? How do we find those drives in that? Command Shift C, remember that? Yep. We're almost there. Maybe I'll edit this part out of the video, so it's not so long for everybody. Or maybe I won't.
Is it 21336?
Yes.
That-
Well, no, that's the S drive. H drive is your drive.
Oh.
You should be working from your drive, not our class drive. Good. So Steve, you gotta import. So file, import audio. And you guys will get used to this. It just takes a while. And then you want to locate where those files downloaded. If it's the default, they went to the downloads folder. Man, my fan is just eating up my battery over here. Get that plugged in. We're almost there. And then we'll do some stuff together.
Yeah, okay, so you're
Okay, so highlight them all. Yep, and then remember, convert or copy,
Convert.
never add. Yep, you just gotta click. Actually, you had, yeah, now you're gonna do individuals, but you had them all
And I
before.
have them all.
And
then there's
then,
done.
yep. And then you always click open there, and then do a track.
And then it's like, come out here and groups.
You're not in Pro Tools tonight. There you go.
Yeah, Able Neighbor found, like, yeah, I was so pissed.
A neighbor's cloud you in?
Yeah.
Nice. That's a nice neighbor.
I know, I'm not.
They're supposed to do the other. They're supposed to be like, hey, too.
Right.
I'll push my stuff onto you.
Yeah.
I always love being out there. I'm always like going down the street like, oh, I love you too. I love you too. I love being out in the snow.
I wish it was like that, not the opposite.
They're usually like,
Making stuff.
get out of here, get out of here. I'll do mine.
Oh.
Yep, new track. Good, getting there. Okay, so what you're going to notice, if you imported them all together, all of your, like mine, all of your track headers where the name of the track is are highlighted in white. So whatever I do to one track is going to happen to all of them. So I just want to show you again that what I need to do here is command click one of them and it will turn gray. And then without command, I can click back on that one and now only the one I click on is highlighted. So that's a way to get rid of those. Command will select them all or deselect them individually. And I just want to make sure they're not all highlighted because we're going to do some stuff. So we need to zoom. There's a couple of things for zooming. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do. There's a couple of things for zooming. If I go to the lower right-hand corner, you'll see these little plus minuses over here. One zooms in horizontally, obviously these horizontal. These ones zoom in vertically. I think they're very cumbersome. I don't think they work very well. That's not what I wanted to do. What I think works better is command brackets. We've done that before to zoom in this way. Command brackets. So brackets are next to the P. I can resize. Remember, I can resize a track by clicking and dragging on the bottom of the track header. But if I hold down my Option key, they will all drag together at the same size. And then Control, Option, arrow keys. Control, Option, arrow keys up and down, which is a little weird because up will make them bigger. Down will make them smaller. I find that to be a little weird that when I'm doing down, they actually look like they're going up, but they're making them smaller. So I'm holding down Control, Option, and then I'm using the arrow keys, and it will zoom vertically my regions. So that's a quick way to get around. If you have noticed in your Tools palette up here, we talked about Trimmer, Selector, Grabber. Sorry, Trim tool used to be called Trimmer. Trim tool, Selector, Grabber. Well, there's also a Zoomer tool, which I hate the name. Zoomer, which I can go and click and it will zoom in horizontally, just like doing command bracket. So I tend to never use this Zoomer key. You can if you want to. Not that you need to remember these, but quick commands for the tools are Command 1, Command 2, Command 3, Command 4. That's how I get between those really quickly, so I don't need to move my mouse. When I'm down here, I can do Command 3, now I'm Selector. I can do Command 2, I'm Trim. Command 4, I'm Grabber. So that way I don't need to keep going back and forth up to the top of my screen. If that's useful for you, great. Just another key command. I always say that the key commands are so I can get more efficient and make more per hour because I'm taking less time. So you'll get there, but you'll hear us talk about that a lot in programs that you use while you're here in digital media. So that's zooming. All right, what we haven't talked about is how the heck do I control the volume of this music bed? So first off, I think we did this before when you did your edits of Pro Tools 2. We clicked on the S button.
Yep.
S allowed us to solo the track. So what I'm doing right now is clicking S, and Steve, you want to make sure that you want to do that command click so that not all your tracks are highlighted in white on the track header. You want to remember command click command click with your mouse on the track header there, because you don't want them all to be highlighted in white, because some of the changes we're going to do will affect each track if they're all highlighted in white. So what I want to do is I want to solo my first track so that if I play it, the others are playing, but all I'm hearing is the first track. So that's the first thing I want you to do is make sure you know solo, mute. Solo will play only that track. Mute will mute the other tracks. Mute will mute the tracks that I have clicked on. So I'm going to solo the first. Everybody with me? That doesn't control the volume. All that allows me to do is to just play only that track. Well, let's look over here. At the bottom of that first track, you'll see a little white triangle. If I click that, and it even says, if I can hover over that, it says Show Hide Automation Lane. Now you're going to have to be zoomed in. Remember, zooming vertically and horizontally. It gives me this thing that says volume. This is called a volume automation lane. So if everybody could, on their first track, click that triangle and get their volume automation lane. The triangle's at the bottom of the track. Just click that triangle that's right there at the bottom of the track. Yep, you're right there. There you go. So there's my volume automation lane. And notice that regardless, let me just go to selector here. If I'm in selector, I don't get the tool that I want. So I'm going to make sure that I am in grabber. So here's my grabber tool. When I go to the automation lane, my grabber tool turns into a finger, which allows me to create what are called keyframes. So if I click once on this automation lane, it makes these little white dots, and they're called keyframes.
What
I
if mine doesn't turn into a finger? It turns.
That means that you're not in grabber. So this is one reason why I don't like the multi-tool. And the here, wait. So after I create those keyframes, I can click and drag them. And this is creating volume automation. So before I click on any of those, anytime I create a keyframe, this is at what we call 0 dB, 0 decibels, a normal level for playing this file. Rarely on a music bed do I need to go above 0 decibels. If my recording of my voice is too soft, the tendency for you guys in your early audio career is to raise those up. I can raise those higher, all the way to plus 12 decibels, but what I'm doing is I'm raising the noise as well. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But what I want to do is I want to make what we call a ducking structure. So say I am creating this station imaging that we're going to talk about in a little bit. It's a little advertisement for the radio station. I want the music to play for a couple of seconds. I want the music to fade because I'm going to talk. I'm going to create a voiceover. I want the music to still be there, but I want it to be lower so you can hear my voice and you focus on my voice. Then my voice is going to stop talking. I want the music to raise back up, play for a couple of more seconds, and then fade to 0, fade to silence. Sorry, I should say to silence. Fade to silence so that the music now and the voiceover are gone. So the way that that's going to look is I'm going to put this back, this second keyframe back to near 0. So it's going to play for a while. It's going to fade down to a softer level. I'm going to bring all these down here. I'm going to get rid of a couple here just so I can. So I'm fading it down. Now it's at a softer level. It plays for a while. We'll move that one over so I can move these anywhere I want.
So you're fading it out, basically.
Now not to silence though. Now I want it to come back up. I'm going to look for 0. There's 0. And I want it to play for a little while. And then I want it to fade to silence. That is a ducking structure. That is what I want you to create underneath. I don't care how long these are, but for right now I want you to have it play for a time, fade to a volume that's softer, play for a time at the softer volume, fade back up to the louder volume, play for a while at that louder volume, fade to silence. Silence is all the way at the bottom, shows minus infinity, meaning it's beyond soft. So create that on your first track. Now you're going to need to zoom in. So if you have your first track like 1 inch wide, it's really hard to see. So zoom in vertically, zoom in horizontally. When you get that set up, I'll verify that everybody has that ducking structure set up.
Oh yeah, come here.
Now if you have too many dots to move around, if you hold down your option key, let me just zoom in here. If I hold down my option key, notice the hand turns to a minus, and then if I click on that keyframe, it disappears. So if you have too many of those keyframes to move around, that's a way to get rid of them. So really, I only need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 keyframes total.
I don't know what I did, but
Because, yeah, you just deleted all your regions,
Oh
plus
my
you're playing. So go to edit, undo breakpoint. I don't know what that is. Go back to edit, keep going to edit, see if we can undo a bunch of them. Or Command Z, yeah, keep going. At some point you deleted stuff. Wow. You must have highlighted all your keyframes and hit delete.
oh, I thought I hit
Let's
option.
try this. No, that's all we got. Okay. So, let's do this. Here's your clip list. So you can always bring stuff back. So you can take that, drop it back on the. Oh, and you're super zoomed out.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, I
That's
think,
why you're just zoomed out too far. I
Okay.
should have checked that first. Okay, so you're there.
Alright, so just make sure I'm doing everything right.
Okay, does that look like mine?
It has to look exactly like
Yep.
this.
This is the ducking structure that we want to use on a music bed underneath a voiceover. Remember, this is at 0, so when you click on that one, that should say 0. When you get to here, that should say 0, that should say 0, that should say silence. This one, I can't really say, because that's going to depend on how loud or how soft the music is versus your voiceover.
My question
But
is,
it has to look like that.
you said use command bracket or zoom and all that.
Yep, or horizontal.
But today, this way, what was it?
Control, Option, arrow keys. So you can do Control, Option. With one hand. Right, so there with the keyboard. Control, Option. It's right next to it. And then the arrow keys. Now that's weird because the up arrow makes it bigger. So you have to kind of think about it that way. Yeah, that's obviously different.
Yeah, I put it up with that.
That's okay. Yeah, that's fine. Gives you the idea of it, but you got it right on the second track. So it should look like that. These 2 points should be at the same number. So this is at 0, this is 0, this is 0. These 2 should be at the same number, and this should be at silence or minus infinity. So if your lines are not flat, that means these 2 are not the same number. That should be the same number as those. The beginning one will always be 0. That does not look like mine though. It has to be exactly like mine. So, this is what I'm saying. This keyframe needs to be at 0. This keyframe needs to be lower. This keyframe needs to be the same as that one. This keyframe needs to be at 0. That's at 0. That one's at negative infinity.
So, just plant some dots anywhere?
You can put them anywhere in time, but their volumes have to be at the numbers that I'm talking about. Drag. But remember, rarely will you go above 0. You can move it. Just make it so that yours looks like mine up on the screen. You can see it up there too.
But, like,
Can't
right
get this
here.
on this.
How do I know it's at 0?
Because it is, and as soon as you click on it, not there, click on it. As soon as you click, well, you just created a new one. But as soon as you click on the keyframe, it shows you what level it's at.
Okay, I got you.
So.
Okay.
So what most people do is they do this fade and then it comes right back up. That's not what I want. I need a flat piece where these 2 keyframes are at the exact same decibel number. And that number is not silence. It looks pretty low there. I'm thinking those are at silence. Those should not be at silence.
the next.
But that should not be at, that should be at a number, but not negative infinity. So I still want the music to be heard at that point.
Okay.
So raise that up to something, you don't know what, maybe like minus 20. Or 30, somewhere in there, doesn't really matter. That one should be at the exact same number as the last one.
Okay. And this one should be at this.
Yep, so if you look, that's a flat line between those up there on mine. We want it as close as possible, but it is, you know, it is possible you're gonna get it a little bit off. Yep, that looks right.
Okay.
As long as that one is at negative infinity.
This one that
Yep.
negative infinity?
Remember, so that my last one is at negative infinity. You have an extra one there, but I need that to fade and be
Okay.
gone. Okay.
And the next one.
The next one comes back up to 0,
Zero, okay.
because now we're gonna hear the music bed again.
What if I keep skipping zero? Like.
It takes a little bit, but see, you're not zoomed in, and that's one of the reasons.
Oh, okay.
The more I'm zoomed in, the bigger this automation lane will be, and the easier it'll be for me to reach those numbers. Now look, I can also make the automation lane itself bigger
Holy crap.
by dragging at the bottom of it. So if that helps you,
Oh, wow.
oops, let me go back up
You
here.
went over on the left and
So-
did that.
Mine are not quite flat there, so I'm going to readjust that. So there you go. Yep, so at the bottom of any track header, I can drag and make that track bigger. So now I'm just looking at the automation lane, and now that's back where we wanted it to be.
Okay, and you wanted where now?
So that does not look like mine.
Okay, and where did you want the infinity to be on? You wanted.
Well, that's at the end, but you have some other problems before that.
Where?
Does that look like mine?
I don't know, I can't tell. but
Look right there. It's right there.
Alright, it starts out with this.
So it goes, it starts at 0, plays for a while at 0. It fades down to a number that's not negative infinity. It plays for a while at that level, so these two are exactly the same. That's what you don't have.
So zero's right here.
No, 0's not way up there. When you click on it, what does it say? Plus 12, you're way too high. 0 is at this line right here. It gives us a little reference of where 0 is, not above it.
I don't see the line.
Right there. Plus, it's displaying the readout of what it is.
Saying
Oh
0.8.
my God.
You're at the line, you're below it, that's fine.
Oh, what is it?
Remember, if you need to get rid of a dot, a keyframe, you can hold down Option and click and just take that keyframe away. Yep, there you go. That makes it a little bit easier to see.
Alright, so then you go back up to your 0.
And you just have way too many keyframes. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I only need 7. I don't need 14. So you'll have to think about how you do that when you start doing projects. You want it to be that smooth. You want 7 keyframes.
Can you delete keyframes?
You can. You can hold down the Option key, and it turns to the finger turns with a minus next to it. You click on those keyframes and they go away.
You hit Option.
And then click on the keyframe.
Yeah, so you see it turns to minus. Now if you click on the keyframe, it goes away. But you have to have the Option hold down. There you go. Now you got a couple more things you have to do. You just swirl it to the right there.
Alright.
Okay, I think I got it.
You're getting there. Right? So it's good.
Okay.
Just verify that that is 0. Click on it and it'll give you the, so it's a little bit low.
So it's like negative 0.1.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's,
Okay.
I wouldn't,
Oh my God,
I
it
wouldn't
just-
yell at you for minus 0.1. I wouldn't yell at you for that. Or even
It was
plus
just-
0.1.
Yeah, it was just going between those two for me.
Yeah, sometimes if you're not zoomed in enough, it'll do that.
Oh,
It kind of snaps.
oh, jeez.
And then one more keyframe to go down to negative infinity. I think you're getting it. You guys got it all right over here. Yeah, you made a couple of them. Yeah, I'm gonna just taking that one down there. I think you made a couple, you get it.
Okay, so this pink keyframe.
All the way down. Negative infinity. That's silence. Yep. All the way down.
You got it all the way down.
All the way down. Keep going. All the way down. Just drag until it
Oh,
stops
I thought you
dragging.
said it was silence down.
Silence, yep, negative infinity. That's where we want it.
Well, when I went down there, you said don't go down there.
On this one. This is the end of our time, and we want that to fade out. And you can make, if you want to make yours bigger, you can grab there, drag. You'll see the changes, yep, and then it makes the automation. Okay, good. Marty, I think yours was fine. So if I listen to this, this is what it's going to sound like. So if I play this, it's playing at full volume. It's a little bit long, but this is my intro to my content that I'm creating. And then it fades down. This is NWTC's Internet Radio, TC3. Listen to us, blah, 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 blah. I'm talking. This is where the voiceover goes. The music is a little bit low right now. I still want to hear some of it, and then I'm done. It fades back up. I hear a little bit of music. And now it's going to fade to silence. We're going to use that for every time that we use a music bed, which all except for our last project, I think, is going to have a music bed. We'll use this structure. Now what's going to vary is how long does this play before I talk? How long is my talking? How long do I want it to play after I'm done talking? So if I look here and I say, you know what, this is too long. I want to make it so this goes about 3 seconds. So that's about 3 seconds. And then I want it to fade down over the next second. So I'm going to put that, going to make sure my volume is right. You know what, make that a little louder because mine was not very good. And then I know I'm going to talk for, let's say about 10 seconds. That's about 9 seconds, I think. And then I want it 1 more second or 2 to come back up to that 0 level. And I only want it to play for a couple seconds because in radio, every second is money. So I don't want 30 seconds worth of stuff playing. And then if I said to you, your assignment is that this must be finished by 20 seconds, that last fade to infinity has to be right at 20. So here's my numbers. This second row shows my seconds. And the seconds start at that line. So 20 is right there. So now, thank you for tuning in to NWTC's Internet Radio. You can hear us at tc3.io, where we play some of the greatest music all day long. Fades back up, fades to silence.
My name's Steve Riley. I'm sitting
And that's it.
trying to figure this crap out.
Good. So that is what I'm going to look for. Now that's so important for our ducking. Next semester you're going to learn how to do that automatically, but I make you sweat a little first. It's so important.
We're not sweating now, Chris, really.
Well, no, hopefully not. It's so important I put here in week 6, ducking automation diagram. And there it is.
Oh, sweet.
So here it is for you if you ever go, what the heck did he say? So 0 decibels, good listening level, music alone.
Where's the quick commands on there?
It comes down, I could put those in there.
Yeah.
It fades down, music is ducked, voiceover is louder. I can't tell you what this number is. With me, this can be louder because I'm loud. If you're really soft, this music has to be lower. We want the music just to be heard underneath so we can focus on the voiceover, but we don't want it so low that the music disappears. Then when I'm all done, it's going to fade up back to that 0 decibel level, and then it's going to fade down to silence.
I'm going to ask a controversial question.
Wow, always.
Good. Here's my controversial question. Why in one class are they pushing GarageBand on me, and in this class they're pushing this program on me?
Because it's a little hard in internet broadcasting. You got to do some stuff right away, It's a little hard to say, and do this in Pro Tools, because we're in week 5, really, 6 technically, but we're 5 weeks of content and we're still not yet creating good stuff. So we don't want to, you wouldn't be able to create something in internet broadcasting yet in Pro Tools. You would still be like, I don't know how to do all this, but GarageBand gets you in there recording, gets you thinking about script, gets you thinking about recording and voice, and it's just a quicker way to get you going. What happens in internet broadcasting is, now that you get better at Pro Tools, most students say, do I have to use GarageBand? And you're like, no, use Pro Tools. Now you have some skills, now use Pro Tools.
Well, I already have people in my project group that are like, I don't want to use GarageBand.
Yeah, it's just to get you in there quicker. Next semester you'll learn Logic, which is GarageBand's like parent. It's like Pro Tools. It's Pro Tools GarageBand. It's another professional
This is
piece of
one
software.
last question, and I'll let you continue.
All right.
But in the industry, okay, like what do they use? Like if you sat down with boards and crap like that, are they using Pro Tools?
Depending on the industry that you work in, they will use Pro Tools, Logic, Adobe Audition, in that order. So those are the 3 by the time you get out of here that we want you to have a good knowledge of how they work. And we're lucky in audio. They all work really the same. They just have a different interface. But this kind of stuff you'll see in every program. Recording, enabling, level setting, when we get to equalization, compression, all that stuff is the same in all of them. Video, you're not so lucky, because you'll learn Final Cut and you'll learn Premiere, and they're very different. But in audio, all our stuff works very similar. So you can jump between them pretty easily. You'll be like, that doesn't look like Pro Tools, but okay, that's a track, there's an automation lane, and you'll figure it out. So we want to give you a taste for as much as we can, so that depending on what's used. Pro Tools is industry standard by far. Logic is next, and Audition is after that. But it depends what industry.
Pro Tools, Logic, and
The Pro Tools is like recording and audio for video.
yeah.
Logic is much more for music production and
What was the
I'd
last
say more for music production, and Adobe Audition is more for radio. So
audio one?
audio, Adobe Audition. So you'll get to taste all of those before you're done. We throw a lot of software at you in 2 years.
I don't know, I think I'm gonna just look at Sam's.
You could be their audio guy. Okay, so that's fairly easy. That's what I wanted you to learn about in here, because you already know how to record. So when I show you how to record in the booths, this station imaging thing we're going to do, you'll be able to record your voiceover. You'll be able to import a piece of music, and you'll be able to set your automation for volume on the music bed to play so that your voice falls in here and you have this stuff happening at the beginning and the end. That's the tools you're going to need to do that assignment. So I want to make sure that you're good with that. I'm not saying you're going to be perfect, but if you follow that structure, if you follow that diagram, you'll be fine in your volume portion of that assignment. Make sense?
Yeah.
Any questions on that? All right, let me just do a couple more things before we need a break or anything. Let me jump over to Keynote. I put this lecture up on Blackboard. It's not something I'm going to test you on, but the information is there if you're interested at looking at it. I put this up here because recording in the room is a little different than what you're going to get in those booths. So I want you to be aware of how you're going to record in those booths. So that's what this is all about. So when you go in the booths, you're going to see this microphone. In audio, we're very big about knowing the names and numbers of our components. If someone came to me and said, hey, can I borrow a SM7B? I'd be like, yes, that's this microphone. So you kind of have to know that. I don't expect you. I'm not going to test you on that. But as you get more in your career, even if you're doing video, people will be like, do you have that Rode shotgun? Do you have that AKG? People will know. You'll learn what those things are.
Do you have one called an AR-15?
I don't. So this is a Shure SM7B. It's a nicer microphone than what we've been using in class. It does have a lower volume to it, so you'll see that there's some other stuff we connect to it. Instead of our little red box, we have this Focusrite Thunderbolt audio interface. So what you're going to see in Pro Tools when you work in the booths is not red when we go to set up playback engine. You're going to see Focusrite Thunderbolt. So that's what I want you to look for when you do a Pro Tools session and you go set up playback engine. Now this works exactly the same as what the one at our desk does, but notice it has 2 microphone inputs. So mic input 1, you'll see that in the booth, my microphone goes into this blue box. Sorry. And then the blue box comes and plugs into here. And we need that because this microphone is a little bit low in volume, so that blue box pumps up the volume of that microphone signal. I also need to make sure that this button that says 48V, that provides power to that box. Not that you need to remember this, but that needs to be red for this whole system to work. So that mic, if it's not plugged into there, make sure it is. If that box is not plugged into here, make sure it is, and make sure 48 volt is pressed. And then it's the same. Same as in here. You turn that, you turn it up, talk. When it turns red, you keep talking and turn it down until the red goes away. Now you've got a good level. It's not going to be as high because of this extra box. This is not going to be cranked all the way. Even for the softest talker in here, you're not going to need to put that to 10. I put it like around 3 or 4 because I'm so loud. So you'll have more than enough level. Now if you get to a project where you need to have more than one mic, the last booth with the glass on it, 6 way down over there, has 2 mics, but if you ever need more mics, find me and I can get you another mic to get in there. We just only leave one in there because of those blue boxes. They're a little expensive. Otherwise it's the same. There's the monitor. I plug my headphones in there. I do have 2 different controls for volume. This does my headphones. There's speakers in all those rooms. That will power the speakers. Obviously, if you have a microphone and you have speakers, you don't want the speakers on because you'll get what's called feedback and you'll get and it'll be really, really loud in there and then you'll be like, what do I do? Because we always tend to freak out when we hear feedback. If we got live concerts, everyone's always like, oh, feedback. It's like, just turn the volume down. So that controls speakers, that controls headphones. I'm not saying you can't use this, but I usually only use the speakers when I'm editing, not obviously when I'm recording. But if you would prefer to only use headphones, then you just plug your headphones in there. System preferences, we know about system preferences, but if I can't find things, if things aren't working for me in Pro Tools, I tend to go over here to sound. So it's system preferences under the Apple menu, sound, here's my output, input, and there's that Focusrite Thunderbolt. You're not going to see red, you're going to see Focusrite Thunderbolt. So I just double check that to make sure that all that stuff's set properly. There's the input. Pretty easy. Then I get to recording. Same process. The mic's already set up, so I don't need step 1. I set my gain, that's step 2. It's going to be louder than I think. So make sure you don't go to step 3 and plug in your headphones unless that volume is really low. 3, I would plug in my headphones, then I would turn up that headphone volume. It'll be more than enough in your headphones as well, so it can be loud in there. And then 4, I open Pro Tools, do the setup playback engine, make sure that everything says Focusrite Thunderbolt. Does all that make sense? Anything odd about that? It's just that you're not in here, you have a better sounding mic, and you have the isolation of being in those booths. Know that the booths have little sign-up sheets. We would love for you to put your initials or your name on there before you go in. There's like a 1 hour limit, I think, to those booths. If someone is in there and they don't have their initials and you need to use that booth, put your initials on it, knock on the door and say, it's my booth, you'll have to leave. Because what happens is people will camp in there. And they will just sit in there all day long and do Photoshop, and they're not even doing anything that needs the booth. They just want to be alone so they can, be in this room and not have people around them.
I remember you saying that when we did the tour, like when I first, you were taking the group of people through, you were like, here's the booths, and you sign your name, and you know what? If you see anybody in here, they don't have their name in the booth, just kick them out. And we went out, and I was like, I like that teacher.
My soundtrack students for my third semester soundtracks class. They have a 5-week final project. They will camp in there. I've seen people sit in there like for 12 hours. So if you need the booth, knock on the door and tell them their time is up and make them get out of there. That should not be a place where you edit and hang out. It should be a place that you go into, record, come out and work somewhere else.
Yeah.
Now, if you need to work in here, remember that this room, if there's an open computer and this room is open, just come in and start working, because we're limited as to where Pro Tools is. It's just in here, just in the booths, and just at that table of 6 out there in the atrium, that lower table. So if I have a class, if somebody wanted to come in and work, it's fine. If there's an open seat, just come in and work, put on your headphones and do your work. You don't have to ask, you don't have to wait for me to let you in, you don't have to wait for the room to be empty. Because as you get towards the end of the semester, you're gonna have a big project for your final as well.
Great.
And you're gonna need to work. So again, if someone's in the booth and not signed up, sign up and kick them out. And then same thing for you. If you're not signed up and my soundtrack students see you, they'll sign up and kick you out. So they know better, because they know they need to get to work. And by the time you're a third semester student, you're really not concerned with what anybody else is doing. You're concerned about getting your work done.
And that's those booths?
Nope, that's
Oh,
down over there.
those
There's
booths.
3 along that wall and 3 farther past the print
Okay,
shop
okay.
over there.
Right. Those are the offices over there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so let's take a little break. I'm gonna grab some student examples of this station imaging from my drive, and then we'll look at the assignment. Hopefully no more than about 10 minutes. You can quit Pro Tools. You don't need to save that if you don't want to.
I was having so much fun in there.
Yeah, maybe save it for later. Let's see.